The time gap between the effects of social technology and social technology research has become too vast to afford. What I mean is institutions like schools, mainstream media outlets, and big companies don't tend to change or announce what might be harming people without having scientific evidence first. This is wise. It's reasonable for leaders to not use intuition alone to make big financial or social decisions that affect other people. But what happens when what's being researched changes too fast? There's always been a time gap between the technology adopted and the evidence of its negative consequences. For example, cars versus the reports of car crashes. It's easier to prioritize the research to adaptations that are clearly deadly, like car crashes. But when it comes to adaptations that don't appear to be deadly as much as they appear to be transformative, like social media, they're less easy to track, understand, or research in a timely manner. Social technology has changed our socio-economic and political landscape in the past 5 to 7 years so quickly, unfortunately, it's made waiting for that scientific evidence become a negative consequence in of itself. Both the institutions of research and publication, as helpful as they are, have become susceptible to loose grips on both the precision of this information and having an appropriate time to publish it. As the pace of our communication methods continue to change, and as our generational differences continue to polarize, it's not unreasonable to assume whatever research starts today risks spoiling by the time it's published. This contrast of speed between our social internet behaviors and the pace of an institution's due diligence have unfortunately grown incompatible. As millions of people are being subjected to harmful socio-formative technologies that mold and damage the way we communicate to each other, the health and stability of many individuals, and therefore institutions, is changing faster than ever before. Therefore, to do nothing but wait for more scientific proof about its damage before we start thinking of solutions seems like an unwise position to hold. For example, Gary Wilson, health educator and author of Your Brain on Porn, has also been frustrated and concerned by this research lag. In his book, which illustrates how high-speed internet porn and porn addiction can negatively affect the brain and life in general, he states, "Academic research is painstakingly slow and narrow, even slower to self-correct, which goes off course. In contrast, the phenomenon of today's pornography is evolving at lightning speed and may be contributing to a broad range of effects. In the last decade, the technology of porn's delivery has changed so rapidly in ways that increase its risk to users, for example, smartphone access and VR technology, that by the time a study is released, its findings are rapidly becoming obsolete." I'm finding a similar frustration about research for most social media, and I'm growing concerned at all the young people being harmed by its design and what that means for the health of our society. I am of course not implying that seeking evidence isn't helpful or that we should discontinue its pursuit. To the contrary, I believe in addition to aggressively pursuing more accurate data about the consequences of poorly designed technology, we also explore the benefits of being highly sensitive to this time gap. Because as these academic institutions start validating through data how harmful these technologies are, we in the meantime continue to subject our most valuable adult life to it. When they'll finally have something to hand us, we'll have gained the evidence, but we'll have lost the time. If maintaining a healthy level of integrity, order, and hope in our communities is a goal, one must not rely on academic institutions alone to confirm through numbers the reality we have to live through either way to make those numbers possible. It is okay to burden ourselves as adults in this society with more than just scientific data. We can in the meantime exercise reason, intuition, common sense, and critical thinking. We can also think of more effective ways to distribute this research when it finally is ready, as being ready might not be enough for people to be aware of it. For example, will the medium in which it's published be effective enough to get the right people's attention? I made a mini documentary about how the current general media appetite does not gracefully consume books and academic papers. Every time I see a researcher or journalist find proof that our attention spans are getting shorter, they decide to write a long academic essay about it that specifically requires a long attention span to read it. If the initial challenge was making sure we have proof, the next challenge is figuring out the most effective way to announce it in our current media landscape. The other concern that affects the precision of this research is the social qualification and digital literacy of who has conducted it. As our communication styles rapidly change, so does our language. And it's very probable that if one does not understand the deeper context to things like memes and subtle internet gestures, like leaving someone unseen, for example, then they're in many ways socially locked out from fully understanding the research they're doing. I've seen many baby boomer and Gen X academics publish work about the deterioration of our social behaviors as if it's a eureka moment, even though to millennials and Gen Zers who use these platforms as a part of our daily lives are seldom shocked by these findings. This makes much of this research not only appear to be unvaluable, but it also acts as scary representation to how little what is going on in our daily lives is understood by the generations we must collaborate with in order to design better solutions. All I'm saying is there are two questions I'm asking myself as we live through this boisterous time gap. What did we have to lose to get this research? And is there anything we could have done in the meantime?